Hello, lovelies. I don't really necessarily want to do another video on all the dungeon drama, but James Raggi of Lamentations of the Flame Princess dropped his video on it, and I guess it's worth putting an end cap on the whole thing, and reminding anyone else doing videos on this that my name is Desborough, not Desborough. Which sounds like one of those rhino things from Doctor Who. Desborough. Anyway, quick recap. Myself and others, including but not limited to James Raggi, Zach Smith, and more, we were targets for cancellation, I guess you'd call it, harassment, maybe, by an organised mob of people within the indie RPG hobby, and amongst those who were trying to kind of do entryist things with the OSR. As it turns out, this harassment, this cancellation, wasn't really because of any high-minded ideals or political ideology. After all, many of us targeted are either on the left as well or outside of standard political categorization. It was not really for anyone being istophobic or misogynistic or whatever else. It was, as it turns out, for petty, prosaic reasons such as jealousy or money, or even just from the high they got out of doing it. They harassed us. They dragged our good names through the mud. They tried to get our friends to shun us, which is the actions of a cult. But cults at least have beliefs. To call this harassment doesn't really do it justice, as the term harassment has been so completely devalued over the last few years. This wasn't mere disagreement on the internet. This was a sustained, decade-long in some cases, campaign to try and bankrupt and isolate people and drive them out of our little cottage industry. Mr. Raggi's video and his feelings are largely in accord with my own. I admire Jim Raggi a great deal and often feel like he's my brother from another mother in a lot of ways. While we probably disagree on a lot, his sensitivity, his magnanimous nature, and his generosity of spirit are things that I hope, I aspire to the idea that other people see those things in me. He's also much better at long-form content than I am, where I tend to prefer like a short, pithy quip or joke. As the League Against Tedium put it, "Brevity is the soul of wit," said the bard. I say wank, and thus I win. Like me, Mr. Raggi is not in a vengeful mood. I think this has been going on too long for either of us to have that kind of fiery, passionate anger about what's been done. We have become resigned to it, to an extent. And he places value on being better people than them, the people who've done this to us. And I concur. Now, that doesn't mean that he or I can dictate to anyone else what they should do, what they want to do. There has been talk about putting these people on lists and so on, boycotting them and so forth. And there's a couple of lists out there, but these lists are largely based upon criteria like politics, which to me is just sinking to the same level or doing the same terrible thing that they're doing. You do whatever you want to do, but I disapprove of such lists. I already did. During Gamergate, there was something better that we did, and there may still be. I think the site might still be up, but there was a site called deepfreeze.it, which had a huge list of games journalists, video games, of course, and listed the ethical breaches that they had been involved in based on the guidelines of the society, the SPJ is what it's called. And then it allowed people to look up those reporters and then decide how to weight and understand and interpret their reportage accordingly. Society for Professional Journalists, yeah. So, if you want to make a list, then it should be of things that people have actually confirmably, objectively, provably done, right? I'll have less objection to that. But the last thing we need are lists that condemn people based simply on their politics, their degree of wokeness, their identity categories, whether there's a space for pronouns on their character sheet. Yeah, that's the kind of petty stupidity that these horrible people have engaged in. And so mirroring that is just more of the same. Don't get me wrong, there is part of me that I am keeping very tightly suppressed, that wants to see these motherfuckers burn for what they did, contributing to my near death, my crippling degrees of self-doubt, my anxiety, my depression, causing damage, irreparable damage to my career, my friendships, my ability to financially sustain myself. You know, there is a part of me that wants to see these filthy little scumbags isolated, alone, hated by total strangers who've never met them over things they haven't actually done. Of course there's part of me that wants that. But it is a petty, nasty, unworthy, indulgent part of me. It's the part that is like these scumbags. So I won't let it win any more than I'll let them win. I will take the higher ground, thank you. This, now, unless a journalist gets somewhere with it and publishes a legitimate story that'll be harder to censor. Oh yeah, this story has been censored and banned on just about every RPG forum, group, Discord server, whatever, out there. But so without a legitimate story, this is likely about as much as we'll get out of this. Something we can point to next time someone says, "Oh, I heard Grim molests goats," or whatever. It's not much in practical terms, but it is something. When it comes to morale, it's vindication, it's exoneration, it's a relief from that self-doubt and self-questioning. I doubt very much that anybody will offer us an apology, though I would like one. Trouble is, I would like that apology to be sincere. So, this is it. This is all there is. Other stuff might come out, but there's unlikely to be any enormous revelations. It's worth noting Raggi's video. Go and check out his channel, Lamentations of the Flame Princess, to see it. It has a very unassuming title, which is very, very Raggi. So yeah, this'll have to be enough, I guess. It's not really, but it'll have to be. Expecting anything else, anything more is asking too much. So I'll spend my efforts, my assistance, my help, and my friendship where it's appreciated, amongst the people who stuck by me, who didn't believe the hype and didn't vanish at the first whiff of trouble, because other people aren't worthy of that friendship and assistance and help. I suggest you do the same. Put your appreciation and your support into good people who deserve it, and forget about these fucking assholes. And speaking of that, Raggi is running a sale out of his American store to try and clear a bunch of warehouse stock. So if you do happen to want to put your money where your mouth is, though that tends to feed the controversy beast to an extent. I strongly suggest you go and pick up some bargains from Lamentations. Zang. It's been called misogynistic, racist, a hate group, reactionary. It's been blamed for Trump, for keeping women out of games and technology. None of this is true. If you want the real story, then you need to buy Inside Gamergate.